Hello, I'm Colin, a second-year medical student here at ATSU-KCOM, and I am really excited about today's episode where we are going to be discussing relationships. We have a great group of people, all second years here at ATSU-KCOM or their significant others. So let's have everyone go around and introduce themselves before we get into the podcast. So Megan, start us off.
Hello, I'm Megan, and I am dating Bryce, and we've been dating for a little over a year.
Hi, I'm Bryce, and I'm dating Megan.
Now, before we move on, Bryce and Megan, you were actually anatomy cadaver partners, correct?
Yes, we were.
You were. And is that how you guys met?
So we actually met the old GroupMe app. Bryce slid into the GroupMe DMs a couple months before school started.
Ooh.
It was just, questions about school. Hey, get this form done, this and that. And then when school started studying together, ended up being in the same anatomy group. And yeah, the rest is history. Anything you want to add, Bryce?
I second what she said.
All right. What about the beautiful one over here in the corner?
I hope you're talking about me.
Yes.
My name is Amanda. I am not a student. I'm a spouse. I am married to Colin.
I am Haley. I'm also a second-year student, and I am married to Logan.
And I'm Logan.
Now, Logan is the only one here without extensive medical experience, right? But you do have some. Could you tell us about your medical experience, Logan?
Yeah, I got a perfect 30 out of 30 on my first aid exam at work. So
Wow. So
I help Haley.
you do help
Stuff
sometimes.
a little bit.
Yeah. So obviously Logan holds the highest average exam score in the room. So very impressive.
Yes.
Very impressive. So, all right. So let's start it off. Maybe we can go back to Megan and Bryce. Just talk about, I know you guys talked about how you met, but a little unique in that you guys met at medical school. Were you going into medical school thinking about a relationship, wanting to be in a relationship? How did that all kind of play out?
I think it was more, I found out that we were in the Air Force program together, scholarship program. So it just started off by I actually thought she was a second year at the time. So I was
really?
like, I was going to get information and everything. And I realized.
He was using me.
So I started asking her questions, and little did I know, she was actually the same class as me and knew as much information as I did. But going into school, I don't think I was really looking for a relationship, but over time, being partners in anatomy and studying all together all the time, I think just accelerated the process, and we decided to start dating out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like that could be really a daunting thing, right? Especially meeting that first semester. And that first semester is so hard in school. I feel like that's, at least for me, that was the hardest semester. You're trying to acclimate and do all that. And then kind of to add a relationship on top of that, that's a really unique thing. So I think that's really cool. Anything else, Megan, you'd like to add to that?
No, I think I kind of felt the same way. Like, I wasn't really looking for a relationship, but I guess it just seemed to, we fit together, made a good team. And I don't know, it's kind of been a blessing just always knowing that someone is having your best interest, looking out for you, making sure you're meeting deadlines or getting things done. And I feel like we've both been that person for each other. So that's been nice.
Yeah. Now, Amanda, you have somewhat of a unique background. You were a nurse before we went to medical school. So you had somewhat of an idea of what med school would be. But what were your thoughts as I was getting ready to start medical student as a spouse?
Yeah, so I was a labor and delivery nurse just shy of 7 years before we started this journey. So, I didn't exactly know what to expect, but I'd obviously talked to a lot of physicians and residents at work, and so knew a little bit of where to start my expectations. So, sorry, what was your question?
Well, just more about your expectations going into school.
Yeah, so I pretty much expected not to be able to see you a ton from what I'd talked to them, maybe in the evenings a little bit. So I feel like it worked for me to set my expectation low on the amount of time I'd see you and then kind of go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, being a nurse and you were in school and undergrad before that, I worked overnight, so we didn't see each other a lot. So that unique background, I think, has helped us adjust smoother.
Yeah, I definitely. And And we've been married 8 years now, so that's definitely, I think, we're a little further along in a relationship. So, I mean, obviously it takes a lot of work, regardless of what point you're in a relationship, but we definitely had worked through some things, so we were kind of ready, to tackle a new thing. So, and Haley, you guys actually got married first semester of school, correct?
Yes, we got married over fall break of our first year. So it was just a few months in to first semester when we got married.
Yeah. And what was it like planning a wedding your first semester at medical school?
Well, I wouldn't recommend it. It definitely added a lot of stress. I mean, we had most of the like big things that you do like a year out typically already done. But like all the final details and everything like that of the planning process, we kind of had to leave up to both of our moms, which we were lucky they were willing to do that because we weren't even living in the same state. And obviously I was pretty busy with just like figuring out how to study. So it was definitely an added stress that I was relieved to not have after fall break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Logan, what about you? I mean, so right before you get married, she's in school. What you guys got married like 3 or 4 months in, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, kind of transitioning then to being married, what was it like kind of trying to balance, her schedule with yours and kind of trying to find time for each other through all of that?
I guess she was in the master's program before she started med school, so we were already kind of used to a schedule where she'd be studying a lot and going to class when I was working. So it wasn't super new, but I knew it'd probably pick up a little more. It'd be a little more intense. So it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It wasn't a big shock, I guess.
Yeah. Bryce and Megan, how do you guys balance that? It's got to be difficult because, you're both in school. So I know like for me, it's much easier to come home and it's like, okay, I can kind of turn some things off and just be with Amanda. But I mean, it's got to be a little more difficult with both of you in school, right?
Yeah, we share an office, but we kind of do our own thing for the most part. I would say we really study together and went closer to exam time when we both know the information. But yeah, especially first year with us being in the same anatomy group too, I think it was important to find time to, decompress from school and, from being around each other and around our classmates and stuff, which I think is important.
Yeah, I think, I guess it's kind of different too. We're like on the same schedule always, which is nice. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say the same thing. It's nice to find your own time to spend time with your gal friends or his guy friends or go work out kind of on your own, do your own things. But also we try to stop studying at the same time every night and kind of hang out together, like watch a Netflix show or something and kind of like forget about school for a little bit. So try to balance a little bit of both. But
No, I think that's really important because I know a lot of my friends that are in relationships in school with people that are not in school. One of the big pluses to them is that it's kind of a way to get away. And so that's really interesting to kind of hear how you guys handle that and kind of try to schedule that out because I do think that's really important with the relationships. What about you, Haley? Kind of dealing with how you balance with Logan not being in the medical field or being in school, balance scheduling with school time and then kind of time with him.
Yeah, it definitely is nice. He is kind of my break from school. Like I know when we're eating dinner or something, we're not going to be talking about school. But something else that we do, like we always go to bed at the same time and wake up generally around the same time during the week. And so that's kind of like one way that we stay on like a similar schedule. And I make sure I'm not studying too late into the night. Yeah.
What about you, Logan? You talked about a little bit with your expectations, but what do you do when you come home and Haley maybe isn't home yet or all that? How do you kind of handle that?
Yeah, I usually do beat her home most of the time, and you never really know exactly what time she's going to get home. But it's just, we try to communicate whenever she knows around what time she'll be home. Then
yeah,
I'm just used to it now, but yeah, it's got to find stuff to keep you busy and have other hobbies outside of just sitting around. So
Yeah. No, I think the communication is really important. But like you said, too, I mean, having a hobby, you're having something to do, right?
yeah.
Because I know you like to hunt and you have your own podcast, things like that to kind of keep you busy. Because it can be lonely on both ends, right?
Yeah, and I take all the time I can get with her, but I know right now it's just part of it. So
Yeah. Amanda, what about you? Because we are unique in that you're currently holding our 9-month-old son now.
Yeah, almost 9 months.
So, talk a little bit about as he laughs.
He wanted his moment.
He wanted his moment. How do we kind of work with scheduling, especially with a child in the house?
Yeah, like Logan said, a lot of communication. We try to sit down on Sundays and we have a week calendar on our fridge, and just for me, especially, like, what should I expect from you that week? When do you have mandatory class? When are you hoping to study? Usually we try to have evenings. So you come home, do dinner, do bath time, bedtime routine with him. So that's some normalcy for him and routine, and you get to see him then. Obviously things happen. I feel like exam week, maybe some things go out the window, but I feel like that's a routine, and just communication at the beginning of the week helps.
Yeah. I know we know lots of, I shouldn't say lots, but we know they're married in med school. And I do think that communication is one of the things you hear over and over again.
Yeah. And I think the first semester, obviously the hardest, just not knowing what to expect. Like I said, having some knowledge coming in, I think that helped us a lot, that I just set my mind that I'm not going to see you a lot. Maybe some spouses that didn't know anything coming in, didn't have any medical, didn't have anyone they could ask. I know some spouses I've talked to thought they would see their husband more than they do. So that's just, got to adapt and kind of go from there. So you'll get into your own groove, but I think communication and expectations are a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Bryce and Megan, how kind of, as maybe someone coming into med school, either in a relationship, maybe looking to be in one, what's something that kind of has changed that you think that you've seen change from that first semester to now? Maybe something you guys have adjusted to that you feel has really helped your relationship?
Definitely not comparing scores. We do a lot better at that, I think. Like, oh, did you pass? I passed. Like, I think that, like, not actually getting to the specific numbers has helped a lot, because, you get competitive, and it's like, at the end of the day, if you're dating someone that's your classmate, I mean, it's not about a competition. It's about, are you guys just both doing, like, being successful and being successful in your own way. So I think that's definitely an important thing.
Mm-hmm. And I know Bryce touched on it earlier about how, like, dating someone in med school almost seems like accelerated because you're spending so much time with each other, whereas, like, dating someone in college, maybe you see them, like, on the weekends or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we did end up moving in together for second year, which I think has helped too. Just, like, I don't know, I've learned more about him, and that we're so different in the ways that we study, what times we like to study, and kind of just, like, how when he's onto something, he's going to finish it. And, like, I just don't bug him, like, while he's doing something. Whereas I like to take breaks, go let our dog out, things like that. And I don't know. So just, like, learning more about each other. And first semester is just tough. Like, first year is just, you're trying to navigate that. And then also navigate, someone if you're in a relationship or starting one. So I don't know. It's just been a lot better this year, I would say, kind of being on the same page about things. So
yeah. No, you definitely, I think that for anyone, if you have a spouse or going into school, that first semester, trying to give them some grace, because it is so hard. And, I mean, it's, for me, I mean, I think it was the hardest semester. I mean, we're almost done with second year. So far, that was the hardest semester. And so really trying to be understanding, give them some grace, help them figure it out, and then kind of go from there, I think is really important.
Yeah. Like no, I would agree. Even with family, I would say, like, that first semester, I think my parents were like, oh my gosh, you haven't called us, like, and it's like, I'm trying, like, I'll get to it. So just, like, relationships and also family, just give people grace. So.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Haley? How has your guys' relationship changed from maybe the beginning of school to now in any way at all?
I think we're just on a better schedule. Like, we kind of know each other's routines, but we still, we'll have to communicate every day about, like, what things are different, or how late I'm going to be at school, or if I have a lot of studying to do that night, or if I have time to, like, watch a little TV with him. And And then kind of like I said, we like to eat dinner together, and we try to like either watch a show or just talk about our days while we're doing that. And then like Logan was saying about his hobbies, he likes to hunt, and we're only a few hours from family. So there's certain weekends that we'll just plan that he will go home, and it's usually right before an exam. And I think that's like better for our marriage also, that he's gone when I need to be studying, 12, 14, 15 hours a day. And that way, like when he comes back, I've been so productive, we can spend more quality time together after that.
Yeah. No, I think that transitions a little bit into, if you're a partner, giving that med student some grace, but also if you're the med student, right, giving your partner some grace, right? If they want to go do something on the weekends, like let them go do that, they don't have to be there all the time waiting for you. I think that's really wise.
Yeah, I go home a good amount, especially during hunting season, and then just taking the dog out, even around here when I am home.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. What about Amanda? What was something once we got into school, something that maybe you didn't expect, whether it be the school, just in our relationship in general, something that you're asking people before school what to expect, all this, and then you get in and you're like, oh, I wasn't ready for that.
I would say I didn't really expect, and I still feel like I'm not always best at it. I'm not really sure how to encourage you sometimes, especially with each block. I feel like at the beginning of the first semester, you're changing how you study all the time, and you're just feeling discouraged. Like, I don't know if this is the method. I don't know if this is the method. I can only say so many times, like, I'm so sorry. I wish I could help you. So I think finding ways to support you was kind of hard. I think we've figured it out now better, maybe. But yeah, I think that was the hard part of not knowing how to like be there for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe for the students too, what are some ways that you have felt that your significant other, something how they encourage you that you really like, right? Because it's very hard. I think it's very difficult as a significant other to try to figure out what can I do to help? Because you're gone all day, you're studying, I can't help you study. So what can we do for you?
Well, I know one thing. I always just bring you coffee or a meal.
That is very appreciated. What about you, Haley?
Logan's a big note writer, so especially like if we have a tough week, or like if I was up later than I thought I was going to be, he's really good about like leaving a note in my planner on my computer or something, and either it's just saying like I love you, or like you can do this or something. And then also before he leaves for the weekend, if he is leaving that weekend, he will like either buy my favorite treat or drink or something, and then leave it for me hidden somewhere so that he'll text me like on a Saturday afternoon where I can find it. So I love that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Logan's very proud of himself for that.
I think for Bryce and I, we kind of are very like acts of service as well. Like, like he knows like, okay, Megan needs a coffee, let's go to Scooters or something. Or we trade off doing dinner, which is really nice to kind of give like our other person a break. But I feel like the biggest thing, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm so mentally drained, and then Bryce like has a bad day or something, and he's kind of like ranting to me, and it's just like trying to be present. I have to remind myself like, what would I want in this moment? I would want Bryce to like listen, like look at me and like understand. And so I try to like put myself in his shoes at times. And I think that's been helpful, but
I second that.
Yeah. No, and I think that's really good perspective from Megan, because kind of from a student's perspective, you're gone all day and you think you've been going through the ringer, but like you don't know what your significant other, right? Maybe they had a bad day at work. Like Amanda stays home, but maybe, our kid's been crying all day, right? And so you also have to take even if you're mentally tired, you really got to work to, be present for them, because this is a two-way relationship, right? That first semester, you're taking a lot more than giving, right? But as you get more settled in and figured out, I think that's good advice. So now flipping it, what are some things that maybe everyone's experienced, you're like, this does not work, right? This was not a good thing. Bryce talked a little bit about comparing test scores, right? But things that you're like, hey, avoid this. This does not work well at all for our relationship.
Well, I don't know if it's for everyone, but at least for me, I just going back to what I said about like me and Megan will only review when it gets close to exam time. I think we both have different ways of learning stuff at the beginning. So not really leading on each other at the beginning of a new subject has worked well for us until we both learn it our own way. Yeah, I don't know how else to answer that.
I don't. You'll have to come back to me.
I would say just figuring out kind of how she studies and whatnot. She doesn't like it when she's in there studying and I'm in there trying to tell her a random story. I have to save those for when she has a study break. So sometimes she probably wishes her office door locked, but it doesn't. So I just have to give her her space and let her have her quiet time and alone time to study.
Yeah. No, I can second that in that, like, I really wanted to be able to study at home. I was like, look, I'll study at home. I can be present. And that just does not work for me. And I've tried it multiple times. And I think it's really important to, you know, like we say, like, look, I'm going to try to be home at night for supper and to put him to bed. But really, look, if it doesn't work to study together in a relationship, don't do it. It's okay. If you have a family and you can't study at home, Theo thinks that's really funny. If, hey, it doesn't work to study at home, don't study at home, right? So I think you can do that and don't feel guilty about it. Find what works for you so that you can get the most done. So when you are together or you are home, you can be more present in that relationship. So I think that's really good. Amanda, what about you?
Yeah, kind of like what Logan said. I would say not interrupting when, you know, you'll be in your office with your noise canceling headphones. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I know I was just in here 5 minutes ago, but I have one more question for you, or just really trying to respect that time, or not having loud dance parties downstairs. I guess that is distracting, I've been told. But no, really, I would say not being afraid to say what's not working. Okay, Theo, you're too loud. I would say not being afraid to say what's not working. So like you said, if I know you try to study at home, so you're like here with us more, and not being afraid for like the student to say, I'm sorry, I just need to study somewhere else. Or for me to be like, I'm sorry, we're usually loud and it's really hard for me to keep him quiet. It's easier if you study somewhere else too. So just not being afraid to communicate openly.
Yeah. Again, you keep hearing that thing, communication, but I think you can say it, but it really is a really important thing. And the better that you and your partner can communicate, the easier it's going to make things in the long run. So I think that's really good. As we wrap up here, just kind of final words of advice, things that, you know, as couples, you guys have found out, maybe we haven't touched on, things that you think are really important, either for someone who's listening to this that's getting ready to go to school, or maybe someone who's in the thick of it and they're kind of trying to make things work. Kind of everyone's final words of wisdom.
I would say, I know people have touched on this before, but grace upon grace upon grace from both sides. Just, you know, you say you're going to be home at 5, you don't get home till 6, give you grace that something popped up. You know, I know that you would like to be with us more than you can be with us. You know, you have to study, you have to be gone for those hours, and just not holding that resentment, but just giving each other grace. And also, I thought I already said this, but that was the first time we recorded the podcast.
We may have had some technical difficulties and we're doing this for the second time, but go ahead.
But Google Calendar we use. So if something pops up, like handling all of Theodore's appointments, if I make something and I forget to tell you about it, if I just put that in the calendar, or if you have something mandatory pop up that might be like, oh, we're going to have a date night, and you just like put it in that calendar so we can both see that notification. That way, if we forget to say something about it later, has really helped us a lot.
Yeah. No, I second that. The Google Calendar is another form of communication, right? But it makes it, I had never done it before until we got to med school. And once we did that, that was a really big deal. So.
Yeah, I would say if you're going to med school with someone that you're dating, or you find someone there that you're dating, just to find time during the week to do something that's not related to school at all, to not talk about school. So Bryce and I try to plan even if it's like we get takeout and bring it home and watch a movie, but we say we're not talking about school, and we like set that boundary to forget about school a little bit, get our minds off of it. But yeah, just take breaks. Like, you don't need to study 24/7. I think that's a big thing. And it just, I don't know, as you get more comfortable, I feel like second year has been a lot better with just like, it's okay, you don't feel guilty all the time, for not studying. So, yeah.
I feel like you guys kind of touched on all the big things, but kind of just summing that up, like make sure to spend quality time together every day, even if it's just a few minutes, and communicate with each other about what you need and when you're going to see each other. And then just allow like the other person to grow. We're spending so much time in school, like learning so much all the time, but like be supportive of their hobbies and whatever they're doing, and then try to find ways to grow together.
Yeah, like people said already, communication, just stuff changes every day. So if you want to run through one more lecture before you come home from the library, just send that text. Might be an extra 45 minutes or something. Communication, and buy your spouse a big whiteboard, and they may stay home more to study.
Oh, I love it. Anybody else before we close it out? All right. Well, thank you everyone so much. This is a lot of fun. I think we've had a good discussion. Hopefully, some things that people can take and learn from, and just know that relationships can be difficult in school, but they are very rewarding, and they are a big blessing. So thank you everyone for joining us. We hope to have you back next time. Thanks.
This podcast is produced by the Young Physicians Network, or YPN. YPN is a new initiative of the Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. If you enjoyed this podcast, we hope that you'll follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, and also visit MAOPS, that's MAOPS.org, to see how you can get more involved. And if your family, spouse, partner, or significant other is looking for ways they can support you and the osteopathic profession, we encourage them to visit AMAOPS, that's AMAOPS.org, which serves as the auxiliary Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. Check out that community and see how your family and your loved ones can continue on this journey with you. Lastly, as a disclaimer, we are not affiliated with nor sponsored by any third parties we may mention. Thank you.